Welcome back to Raven's Haven. This is my first episode of Raven's Rants. This is just a quick video of me ranting about some of the stuff that's going on in politics. So just sit back, relax, you know, enjoy yourself, because it's just me ranting about my feelings about the state of the world. I'm not saying I'm right, I'm not saying I'm wrong, but I'm just a regular guy trying to figure things out. What we have here is a video from The Hill talking about the universal basic income experiment that was done for 2 years in, I believe, Baltimore, starting at 2019 and ending around at the end of 2020. And the results are very, very good. And as far as I was concerned, it just made sense to do it, depending on looking at how the state of the world was. So let's listen to this, and if anybody has any comments or whatnot, you could put it down in the comments down below. All right, let's check it out.
In February of 2019, then Mayor of Stockton, California, Michael Tubbs launched that city's universal basic income experiment. More than a year later, results from that study are in. So those who received the payments actually began working more, and most money was spent on basic needs, things like food, home goods, and utilities. The study also found participants were physically healthier and they were less stressed.
Really interesting.
Let's look at that. Okay? Let's take a look at that. Take a look at that. People who were against a UBI, they would sit back and say, oh, if you give people $500 a month, for life, that won't motivate them to go out and do anything. What the fuck world are you living in where $500 is enough for you to do anything? Huh? Where the hell are you living? What fantasy world are you living where $500 is enough for somebody to sit back and go, oh, you know what? I'm getting $500 for the rest of my life. I don't have to work. Are you fucking kidding me? In New York, the minimum fucking rent in New York is, you'll be lucky to find an apartment for $500. Not even lucky. That's, man, dude, I don't know how rare that is. That's so rare, you need to send it back to the fucking kitchen and get it fucking cooked well done. Okay, that's how rare it is. All right? So that's total bullshit. All right? Look at this. Employment and productivity up. Well-being up. Stress down. You don't have that stress anymore of how the hell am I going to pay my rent? How the hell am I going to pay, buy food, groceries, toiletries, wash and drying clothes. You gotta pick and choose. What type of bullshit is that? These people are still working. I know I would work. I get an extra $500 from the government as a stipend just for being a citizen. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever they're doing, or whatever their way they're talking about this. So that makes sense to do this. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the climate we're in right now, where people were not working. They should have done this day one of the lockdown. It was so goddamn simple. And I don't understand why they didn't start that. People kept having this whole thing, oh, it's communist, or it's Marxist, or it's some ism, but it's just ridiculous. But let's go on.
Former mayor of Stockton, founder of Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, Michael Tubbs. He joins us now to discuss that report. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little about the results of your study, why you felt it was so important, how you were able to implement it, and what it tells us about this program in the future.
Economic insecurity is the most pressing issue of our time. I think a lot of the things we argue about, whether it's homelessness, whether it's educational attainment, whether it's crime, it's rooted in the fact that so many Americans are in poverty or one paycheck away from poverty. And it was in that spirit, in the spirit of Dr. King, we launched the Stockton Economic Empowerment Demonstration, our basic income pilot. And what we found is that what folks have been telling me for 2 years and what people have been saying for the last 30, 40 years in this country about the economy and how it functions and who it works for are lies. The first lie was this notion that something as small as $500 a month would make it so that people would decide to not work, that people would lose their ingenuity, their desire to be creative, their drive to be self-reliant. And what we found based on the data is that the opposite is true, that $500 was enough to allow people to exit exploitative jobs, exploitative relationships, and find full-time work with stable hours, with benefits. It allowed people to pay for things like transportation and childcare and interview clothes, which make them more likely to find full-time employment. We also saw that there's
Ding, ding,
almost a
ding, ding,
two
ding,
times
ding.
difference in unemployment between those who received the guaranteed income or the $500 and those who didn't. We also saw just the health impacts and effects. Medicine is important for sure, but if you look at the data, on the Kessler scale, the way that people who receive the guaranteed income decline in stress levels and decline in depression are comparable to clinical trials of Prozac, meaning
Wow.
that so much or some of
Look
the
at that.
depression we see and the
Look
mental
at that.
illness we see is probably triggered by the fact we live in an insane society that allows so
Yes,
many people to go without. That
it's so true. So goddamn true. The stress that people have. How the hell am I going to feed myself or my kids? How am I going to freaking pay for something like a dentist appointment? You know what I'm saying? Hells, something happens, you don't have enough money. People living paycheck to paycheck, dude. Something happens, that's it. I don't know where these politicians are getting their numbers from. I was watching a few. What was I watching? I was watching a news segment where the politician said that most the average American has at least $500 or $5,000, something like, I think it's $500 as in savings to do what they've got to do, or 5,000. And this was during back when the pandemic started. They had mentioned this type of statistic, and I remember the immediate backlash. A lot of people were like, "I don't have that much money saved up. Are you kidding me? I don't have that money saved up, dude." So many people were just heated behind that because they were out of touch with the American public, the normal American public. These people go off and have a freaking $200 breakfast in the morning, okay? While I see blue collar people going to the corner store, picking up their bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich for like $3 or $4 plus a dollar cup of coffee. That's like $5 altogether, and that's their friggin' breakfast and lunch. Are you kidding me? Get the fuck out of here. These people are out of touch. They're out of touch with the regular American public, and no matter how much we tell them, it's not like that. They ignore us and they don't listen to us. This is why we're having so much problems in this country. You have people stressing over money, rent, food, paying their utilities, shit, just washing their ass. You know what I'm saying? How the hell they've got to make a choice between paying the rent, buying food, washing their ass, buying stuff to wash their ass or their clothes, or even going to take care of medical treatments. See the problem we're having here? You see the fucking problem we're having here? This is the answer. This is the fucking answer. A UBI. Nobody's saying to make the UBI where you can pay for everything and you don't have to work. There's incentive for you to work. All right? They give you a certain amount a month, and you can choose to take that money that they give you, break it up, and pay for things separately. Half your rent, most of your utilities, buy some food, buy some groceries, buy toiletries, wash and dry clothes. The rest of it that you don't have enough money for, let's say like the rest of the rent, that's where you go and you find a freaking job and you work. So this whole idea of people sitting on their ass, and if they get the UBI, doesn't make sense. And I am so pissed off that for so long these politicians fooled the American public into believing, oh, don't do that. That's some communist stuff, or that's some Marxist stuff, or some bullshit there. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's like, no, do that. We need that, especially now. We needed it before the pandemic. We need it now. Imagine, like he just said, a lot of people had a stress on their mind because they didn't know how they were going to get the next bit of payment, or they felt like they were trapped in a dead end, either a dead end job or the fact that they just didn't have enough money. You know what I'm saying? So the stress just goes away with that. Or not totally. They're still going to have some stress, I would imagine. I don't know what everybody's life is. But with me, that takes a huge load off my head. But then again, I'm a single guy. If it's a family composition, then obviously it would increase and decrease depending on family composition and state that you're living in. Because from what I'm understanding, there are some states that if you did have an extra, let's say the government did give you $500, you would be able to live off of that without going to work. Apparently, there's states like that. And I'm like, it's hard for me to imagine it, but I've heard from one or two of my friends who are living in other states that, hey, you should move out here. You know, dude, it's like $500-$600, you get yourself your own freaking place and this and that. And I'm like, wow, the cost of living seems to be cheaper in those areas. So I asked him, if that's the cost of living, how's the job market? Almost non-existent. It's cost of living is cheap, but finding a work there is a bitch. So those are the trade-offs. So, you know, you're gonna have to take this on a case-by-case basis, family composition, and state by state. You can't just blanket everybody in America $500. That wouldn't really make sense if they were families. Some family, if it was, they'd have to measure that out and, whatever. But yeah, let's keep going on.
Allow so many people to be one paycheck away from ruin or to live in poverty. And the third thing we found is that a guaranteed income represents smart pandemic contingency preparedness and contingency
What did I
planning.
just say?
Meaning that we know we live in a time of pandemics, and for folks who received a $500 a month, they were able to build economic resilience so that when 2020 came, the year after these results covered, folks were in a better position to survive and to not be torn economically by COVID-19. So I am so proud of these results. I think it goes to show us that we can trust regular people with money, just like we trust the richest top 1% in this country. And I think it provides a way forward into how do we live up to our democratic values.
Personally, I think we should be.
Which we shouldn't be trusting the 1%, because we see what the 1% is doing right now with us. We see what they're doing. All right? A lot of them are trying to, if you pay attention to where the money's flowing, a lot of them doing some real grimy stuff. They're buying certain corporations. Certain corporations are buying certain news outlets and doing certain things behind the scenes to get in bed with politics, and it's a swamp, dude. It's a freaking swamp. And I'm looking at this, like I said, I'm just a regular guy just trying to figure out what the is going on. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, that doesn't help me. That actually hurts me. And I am looking at the long term on how this is going to go. These people aren't going to stop. All right. Yet they sit back and tell us, no, you can't have a UBI because you can't be trusted with the money. You're not gonna spend it, or even worse, you're not gonna go to work because you're not gonna. No, that's bullshit. That is total bullshit. You're still gonna have to work because you've got to buy things. You've got to buy things. You got to buy food. You got to pay for utilities. You got to save some of that for an emergency. And we all know when emergency comes, money goes in some way, shape, or form. All right. So yeah. So you're still gonna be working. Nobody's saying a universal basic income has to be $3,000 a month or $1,400 a month. It can be 500, maybe 600. I would say 600 would be pretty good here in New York. All right, depending on, like me, I'm single. If I had a universal basic income of, let's say, 600, ends with me like a motherfucker. All right, I would be able to work, make my money at my job, and not worrying about, well, I've got to pay the rent, I've got to pay the utilities, but I have an emergency where I have to go to the dentist, and that's going to cost an arm and a leg, even with my insurance and my union stuff. It's still costing an arm and a leg. So, yeah, what do? Well, I'm going to have to tell my landlord this month I can't give him any rent, or pay him partial rent, which adds to my backlog of how much I owe in back rent. See the problem here? Just weighs down on. And I don't care what anybody says. Oh, well, you got a budget in this. No, fuck that. Fuck the budget, because some people don't got a budget. As I just went over, some people don't have a budget. All right? This is why I was saying you got to take this on a case-by-case basis. You're going to have to. You can't just blanket everything. It's almost never a good scenario when you blanket everything. What works for one person may not work for another person. So you don't just blanket everybody. But yeah, let's continue.
Trusting those rich people a lot less and the regular people you're talking about a lot more. And I do think that speaks to one of the core things that you've exposed here is really there's been a bipartisan classist attitude over the past 40 years that you can't trust poor people with money. You got to tell them how they can spend it. You got to tightly constrain it. Oh, if you just give them money, they're going to spend it on alcohol and cigarettes and drugs.
That's the elitist mentality. Oh, you can't give that much money to a poor person. They're going to go. So all poor people are alcoholics and drug addicts, is what they're saying. See how they're looking at us? You see how they view people who are lower on the economic scale? Oh, you can't give them that money. I just said it towards the beginning of this video. How they sit back and say, you can't give these people money. We're poor. We're not. Just because we're poor doesn't mean we're alcoholics and drug addicts. That's what you think of us? That's how you think of us? That if you give us that, oh, they're going to spend it on drugs. They're going to spend it on alcohol. No, we're not. Do you think all poor people are like that? This is the shit that pisses me off. This is the shit that pisses everybody off. They are out of touch. Some of those rich 1%ers and everything, they are out of fucking touch. All right? That's their train of thought. Oh, if you give poor people that much money out of nothing and they didn't have to work for it, it means nothing to them. There's no value. What the fuck are you talking about? If you gave them money, it means something to them. Trust me on that, because when I get that money, that helps me the fuck out. I can start to put the pieces of my life back together again with that money, and start to use that money to glue those pieces together and then lubricate the rest of it so that way it runs smoother. You don't not give people that. So then they're always going to be poor. They're always going to be in a bad situation. That's their train of thought. They're out of touch and they don't give a fuck.
What did you find with regards to how the money was actually spent and what it did for these people's lives?
What's amazing is that we found, and no surprise to you all, but people are people. So people spend money the way you and I spend money. So people spent their dollars on car maintenance. They spent their money on food. They spent their money on their kids. They spent their money on childcare. They spent their money on helping others. One young man, Tomas, talked about how in the first month of the Guaranteed Income Pilot, he was able to take time off of his part-time, no pay time off work to interview and apply for a job that he actually wanted to do. And he asked, why didn't you do that before? And he said, well, I lived paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah,
so even
exactly.
taking a risk to bet on myself for something I knew I was qualified for was too much of a risk for me to take. So I can't afford to lose the $200 from taking off time off work.
And you know what people who are out of touch would say? Oh, well, you've got to take a chance. You've got to take a chance. You got to do it, and it just shows that you don't want to take a chance. You don't want it bad enough. Bullshit. Go fuck yourself. Tell me or tell anybody else they don't want it bad enough. Go fuck yourself. You fuckers, you already have your shit. You already have your money. You already have your fucking wealth. How dare you tell somebody they don't want it bad enough? You don't know them. They want it bad enough, but they can't take that chance because it's not just them. They've got to worry about their family. The guy can't take off because he's living paycheck to paycheck. Even though if he takes that chance and it fails, he's doubly fucked. He may have just lost his job because he asked for a day off, and the turnover rate in these type of places are like crazy. Oh, you want to take a day off? Oh, you took too many days off. You took 3 days off in the last 2 months. Are you fucking kidding me? So you're going to fire someone over that? I've been through jobs like that. Where just taking 3 days off, they want to fire you. Or they want to put you on write-up, which is a strike against you. When you needed to take the days off. It's bullshit like that. It's total bullshit like that. But yeah, see, this is the bullshit.
And that got me to think about how many people are trapped. Because we know that poverty is expensive. We know that economic insecurity compounds. And to your point about this bipartisan agreement about how we treat poor people, I think it's a mixture of classism, but also racist. When we think of like the welfare queen tropes.
There you go. Yep, the welfare queen tropes. Oh, welfare is bad. And you got people living generational. That shit stopped. They put a stop to that a while ago, man. I don't even know how many fucking years back. That was during the Reagan years and shit, going on to maybe the Clintons and shit like that, and the Bushes. But they stopped that. It's been stopped for what? I don't even know how many years. You can't do shit like that no more. There is no more generational fucking welfare. This is the problem. That stigma is trapped in the public zeitgeist, in their minds. That's the problem here. They have those. Some of it is racist, like he's just said. Some of it is elitist and classist. And they still have that in their head. And it's like, it's not like that anymore. You can't do that anymore. There are safeguards. Dude, trust me. There are not only are there safeguards, there are tons of discouragements to stop you from doing that. So not only are there rules and regulations, but there are unwritten things that they do when you're on public assistance that make you just be like, oh God, I don't want to be on public assistance, even when you're on the fucking thing. So That shit doesn't work anymore.
When we think of sort of the images that come up when we talk about people who are poor, oftentimes those images, although numerically not true, are images of people of color, are images of Black people, are images
That's
of
right.
Black women. So I'm excited about this demonstration to provide data to say, like, no, these tropes we have about people who struggle just aren't true. The issue isn't that people don't want to work, it's that our economy doesn't work for working people.
Yeah.
The
That's
issue
right.
isn't that people are people who have more money or smarter or harder working. In fact, the hardest working people in our society, I argue, are probably the people who get paid minimum wage, who
Yeah.
are
That's
doing the
right.
work of caregiving, who are doing the work of field work, etc.
So, Mr. Mayor, why do
So true. So goddamn true. What did I just say? What did I just say? Don't fucking judge people like that. You don't know how bad they want it. Don't give me that, oh, you don't want it bad enough because you're not willing to take a chance. Oh, fuck you. You have no idea what I've been through and what I'm going through. Don't give me that I don't want it bad enough, so I'm not taking a chance. Fuck you. I've been taking chances. I've been busting my ass. I've been doing shit. Maybe it's not to your level, but you are on a higher plateau right now financially. So you can sit there and say all sorts of shit. Come down to my level. Come on down here. I could live a lifetime in your world. You can't last 10 minutes in mine.
you think about the broader prospects? Now that this has come out, you're part of this group. Are there others who are following your example? How does that look like?
Yeah, we have 44 mayors who are now a part of Mayors for Guaranteed Income who have all stood up and said, we want to do a basic income pilot. The city of Compton, California, under Mayor Asia Brown, is doing 800 people. The city of St. Paul, Minnesota, is doing
Go.
150 people. They were the first pilot in this country to use government dollars. They use CARES Act dollars and private dollars to fund their.
This goes back to the same thing I said in a video I published on another one of my YouTube channels. The name of the YouTube channel is Better World Initiative. The Better World Initiative. You can look that up on YouTube, and as a matter of fact, I'll put a link to that YouTube channel on the bottom of the description text. That's the same thing I was saying. If we could just take one state and do something like this and just do this in one state, it'll catch on. You'll see people wanting to do this, wanting to be a part of it. You do this once in one state, everybody's going to want it. The outcry is going to be so huge that they'll have no choice but to do it. They'll have no choice but to do it. So that's this succeeding in one state is such a big thing for me, because that means that it can spread. You know what I'm saying? If you don't want to be part of the program, that's fine. You don't have to be a part of the program. If you feel, oh, no, you should work. You should bust your ass. You should kill yourself. Well, okay, you do that. You go ahead and murder and kill yourself for pittance. You go ahead and do that because you have some notion that it's noble to do so. No, get the fuck out of here. It's stupid. And the powers that be are counting on you to have that train of thought. So that way they could milk you for all your worth. So keep having that mentality of, oh no, I'm gonna work and bust my ass and this and that. I'm not saying it's bad. Go for it. Do that. But don't look down on anybody else who wants to do this type of UBI. It's not a bad thing. It actually is something that can help. But once again, it's how you quantify it, how you view this. It can help you. All right? I've seen too many people. I see too many people, single mothers who are out here, regular people who are struggling, families that are struggling. And I see the stress and the heartache and how it just screws with them. And it's like, my God, none of this has to go this way. None of it. But this is what we get.
Pilot, the city of Los Angeles, under Mayor Garcetti and Councilman Curran Price, just announced a redirection from police budget dollars to provide a basic income for folks living in South LA. City of Pittsburgh, city of
That's one way to
Tallahassee, city of
redirect
Atlanta, Georgia, city of
funding
like
from
there's
the police
throughout Madison,
instead of
Wisconsin.
defunding them.
There's 42 cities across this country that are now
Totally
saying
defunding
not only
them,
are we
you know?
going to pilot, but during
Like
this pandemic,
you're still kind of defunding the police when you do that. Now, I don't quite agree with it at first. I was like, oh, defund the police. Yeah, take the resources that they're using to protect the dirty cops and defund that and redirect the fund. No, that's not what they meant. They literally meant defund the police and taking away their funding. And I was like, that's not what I was thinking. So I can't really get behind the whole defund the police thing. It's like, we do need the police. We just need them to be retrained. They really need to be retrained. And their whole mental zeitgeist on the public needs to change. It just really needs to change, because I've heard some things from a few friends who are police officers, or people who know people who are police officers who went through training, and man, let me tell you, boy, if it's true, they have this whole way of thinking that's just, let's just say, I wouldn't want to be on the wrong end of any of these police for any reason. Even if it's just a minor jaywalking ticket. No. Mm-mm.
stimulus checks need to be reoccurring. That
Yeah.
we need to make sure that folks have what they need to survive and also do better once we're done with COVID-19.
And what are your reflections on the way that this debate has changed? Because this year, people got direct. It went from being basically off the table direct cash aid to now one of the most popular and powerful tools in all of American politics. What do you make of that transformation?
I think what I make of it is that folks are wising up, that the biggest and smartest investment that the government can make is an investment directly in people. And
There you
all
go.
people, with the priority given to those who desperately need it, who absolutely need it. So I'm amazed at how much the pendulum has swung. I think partners like the Economic Security Project, Congress people like Rev. Ilhan, even VP Harris had a bill when she was senator with Senator Sanders about reoccurring stimulus checks, have really kind of.
Yeah. Comes to Harris, Kamala Harris. Uh, yeah, if she's jumping in on this, I wonder what type of backdoor bullshit she's gonna tack onto it.
Created, and then we see this child tax credit in the stimulus plan. That's a guaranteed income essentially for parents, have really swung the pendulum. And now I think it's the job of mayors, former mayors, and constituents to keep advocating, keep pushing, because we know what works. We just have to figure out if we have the political will to do it.
Yeah. Great talking to you, Mayor Tubbs. Thank you so much for breaking down what the results were in your city. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. This this is a good thing, and I hope it comes to more states in the future. I really do. Because it's just another way for people to not get left behind financially and help uplift themselves a little bit more. They're already busting their ass, they're already working, they're doing a lot of hard work, they're busting their asses, and some of them cannot afford to take a chance, because it's not just them. They're doing this for their families. So if they fail for any reason, whether it's their fault or someone else's fault, such as an employer who just doesn't like the way they look, even though they're qualified for the job, which one or two of my friends can talk to you about that, about, you know, that's a big thing. That's why I was so heated about people who sit back and say, oh, well, you didn't want it bad enough. You don't know me. You don't know them. I don't know how bad they want it. Depending on their life and what's going on, I can't sit back and say, oh, looks like they didn't want it that bad. I can't say that because I don't know them. I don't know what's going on in their heart of hearts and mind of minds. I don't know what's going on in the background. You know what I'm saying? Maybe there's a reason why he or she can't take a chance. You know what I'm saying? But whatever. This is just me ranting. My personal, I'm just one guy on the internet ranting about his feelings. And ranting and raving about his feelings. So, make of it what you will. Think it over, look it up, do your own homework, do your own due diligence, as I always advise everybody to do. And yeah, this is Ravenhawk, and I'm out. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the little bell icon to get updated whenever a new video pops up. Later.